Hello and welcome to the Northern Nanopore Instruments tutorial video on how to use the Nanopore Fabrication software. In this video, we'll go over the various components of the software so that you can get to making your nanopores right away. To begin, of course, we have two channels, channel 1 and channel 2, and these correspond to your channel 1 and channel 2 of the Spark E2 instrument. In each channel, you have your pore ID, which is what the pore is called in all of the saved files. I'm going to call this one Nanopore 1, and I'll call my second one Nanopore 2. We have the target. This is the size that you're aiming for, the diameter in nanometers. I'm going to make this one 5, and for channel 2, I'll make it 6. You'll note that just to the right of these fields we have a grayed out 0 under the word actual. This is showing the latest size measurement of your nanopore. Of course, right now nothing's running, so we have 0, but as we generate our pore and condition it up to the size that we're looking for, this will slowly increase. One last point on the left-hand side here is this enabled checkbox. The Spark E2 is able to do 2 channels in parallel. However, if you would like to do only one, you can uncheck this box like so. And in this case, we are now set up to only run channel 2. I'm going to recheck because I want to run 2 in parallel. Just to the right, we have our status window, and this is going to show you exactly what is going on with your nanopore at any given time. It might say fabrication or conditioning or size measurement. It will update automatically as it progresses through the automated fabrication procedure. And to the right of that, we have our graph, and this is going to show the pore size as a function of measurement step. So before fabrication and then after fabrication, you'll get a size measurement. You'll get a little dot. Usually after fabrication, it's probably going to be around 2 nanometers, and then once it goes to condition the pore, it will start to measure the pore more frequently as it conditions, and you'll see little dots appear indicating the size of the nanopore. So you can see this growth pattern that we'll see later on. And of course, the very final point will be what is displayed here in the actual nanometer, the actual field on the left-hand side. So this is your main display, and probably where you'll spend about 95% of your time, especially once you've started the software. But to get started, you'll want to input your protocol as well as your experimental conditions. The protocol is how the software is going to fabricate and condition your nanopore. So I have a drop-down button here. Right now I have standard 5 nanometer pore protocol loaded. This will come standard with your software. If I try and drop down, I have a couple of different options. This is one that I started using earlier on. But if I want to make a new one, I can click these 3 dots here. And I have a window pop up, and I'm able to change the various fields. For more information on the various fields and how to modify the standard protocol, please check out our other video on this subject. So I have my protocol that I've loaded. I have my experimental conditions now. So this is my my solutions, my buffers, as well as my nanopore. So these are only a few fields, but they're really important to get the size of the nanopore right. The length of the pore, the thickness of your membrane, as well as the conductivities are going to be really important to make sure that your size measurement is accurate. I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, but the first thing I'll note is that we typically have a buffer exchange between fabrication and conditioning, which is why I have my fabrication solution here and my conditioning solution here, along with their associated values. This checkbox allows you to pause fabrication, so to pause the software after fabrication. The software will prompt you saying, a pore has been fabricated, please switch to the buffer, at which point you can do that and then press OK and it will continue on to conditioning. So with this checkbox checked, it will have that pop up and pause the software. If you uncheck it, the software will automatically go from fabrication all the way into conditioning it to make your pore the correct size without that buffer exchange. But I'm going to keep this checked. Pore length is the thickness of your membrane. Fabrication is whichever buffer you're using to fabricate in. Typically we use KCl, 1 molar, pH 8, and this is our conductivity here. Conditioning, we typically use lithium chloride, 3.6 molar, pH 8 again, and we have our conductivity here. And this is pretty much all I want to say about this window. We can do the same thing. We can save our buffer. If we had thicker membranes, we could save the buffer as thicker membrane. And again, we would have this as our drop down now. So I'm going to go back to standard. And so we have our protocol loaded. Our experimental conditions are standard. This is a way to quickly change your buffer conductivity if you want to. These are not saved, so if you want to change this because you made a new KCl batch and it was a little bit different, you can do that if you so choose. And at this point, our pores are pretty much good to go. I'm going to quickly mention some of the options on the right-hand side here. These three horizontal bars provide us with some settings that we can tweak. I'll go over these very quickly. The hardware settings, all you have to do is make sure that your board number here, this number, matches the value that you see in Instacal. It'll say board number something, and you'll want to make sure that that's the same board number as here, and then you can hit apply. For logging settings, the default path for everything that's saved, which is your conditioning file, your size measurement files, as well as your fabrication, goes automatically to the default path set here. Of course, you can change it if you so choose. I'm going to leave it as is. And if ever you're concerned about the hardware, you can insert the dummy cells that shipped with your unit and press the dummy cell test, and it will automatically run through the dummy cell test. So that's all I have to say about our software. At this point, we have our protocols loaded, we have our pores named and the target size written down. We can press start and our nanopores will fabricate.